It is March 25th, Monday night, the best night of the week because it's time for Wise Guys. And I'm thrilled. Welcome to Wise Guys, everyone. I'm thrilled because my nephew, Brian Logan, who I affectionately call Bilo or nephew, is in the house with me tonight to join me to co-host the #1 BYU Sports Livestream talk show in the world. And thanks for coming and joining me tonight, Brian.
Yeah, anytime. You know, when you guys had me on the first time as a guest, and somebody made a joke in a comment, and I was like, I'd love to come anytime. You know, if you guys need a host, and you're like, and then Dave was like, okay,
that's exactly right.
You're serious. So anytime you guys need somebody to come fill in, I'm happy to be here. I don't really have much going on with my life outside of football.
Now I know that's not true. We're going to explain in just a minute why. Like people always ask me, "Hey, we noticed that when all the shows you do, that B-Lo calls you Uncle B, and you're the one that actually started that."
Right.
So we're going to get to that in just a minute. I want to explain that B-Lo's in with us tonight because Dave is calling the BYU Utah Valley baseball game tonight on ESPN Plus. So he's busy doing that, and the weather broke this morning. I wasn't sure that there was going to be a baseball game, but the weather broke this afternoon, and Dave's calling that game. Both coaches, I asked Dave, I said, what if it's a little blustery? He says, no, these two coaches want to get this game in. So they're going to play that game, and that should be a fun one for Dave to call over on ESPN Plus. And so you're here with me tonight. Hey, make sure you follow us on YouTube. And we'll put the link in the chat for you to do that. Hit the subscribe button. It's free to do that. We're also live on Facebook, Twitch, and then the kind of the wheelhouse or the spot where you go for everything is ysguys.com. You can launch from that page to anywhere you want to go. Subscribe there at ysguys.com. wiseguys.com. Then you're going to get our weekly email. It has highlights from the show every week. All of past interviews that we have there are indexed, including folks like Ty Detmer, Steve Young, Danny Ainge, Wally Joyner, Marie Osmond, Glenn Kozlowski, Jimmer Frenette, Kyle Van Noy, Sherry Dew, Brian Logan, Libby Lloyd, my daughter, everybody, you name it, it's there. It's just an unbelievable library of great interviews, and make sure you subscribe. You'll get a weekly email, and you can have access to all of that. So let's start with why you call me Uncle B and how that's like we actually are family. People don't realize that.
Yeah. So I definitely it's funny is because I called my mom after the alumni game, and she said I did a good job. I only played a couple of plays, and she was saying, "Yeah, Uncle B and Dave, they were speaking highly of you." And I said, and she was like, "You were kind of huffing and puffing, and what were you looking at on the sideline after you made the play?" And I was like, "I was looking at all the DBs, all the current players, because they were talking trash to me, and they were like, oh, he's about to get cooked, he's going to get roasted, and blah blah blah." And so I see Jacob Robinson, and I shake hands with him, and he goes, "Man, handle your business, B, because they don't know who you are." And so, out of everything they were saying that caught me off guard, they kept calling me like Uncle, and I was like, I'm that old, huh? and then I started thinking about you, and I was like, so I felt bad because I was like, wait a minute. Cause I was actually a little bit offended, so I was like, I wonder if Uncle B gets offended.
No, never.
And then I kind of reeled it in, and I said, you know what? Like Uncle B is really like my family. Yes. Uncle B. I was on another radio show last week, and we were talking about Gavin, and Gavin had an interview, and I was like, "That's my cousin, man.
Yes,
that's my cousin." And one of the guys that was there, he was like, "Is that really your cousin? Is Uncle B really your uncle?" I was like, "I could walk into his house right now without letting him know in the front door.
Go get in the fridge.
Go get in the fridge." And he's like, "Okay, you can do that." And so this happened. I think my second full year here, or my first full year here at BYU TV. We're in the green room, and usually I get my ties tied, like pre-tied, because I don't know how to tie a tie at the time.
You do now.
I do now. And Uncle B, he grabbed it and took it from me, and he tied it, and everything was great. And he said, no, get back here, untie it. So I untied it, made me tie it again. And I was like, okay, I'm ready to go. No, get back here. And we did that maybe like 15, 20 times.
Yes.
Until I got it down, packed. So now whenever I do wear a tie, I always think about you, and I appreciate, not only just you tying it for you, but the reps.
So my feeling is this: when you have family, somebody might just tie your tie from you, but family's not going to just tie your tie.
Right.
Family's going to teach you how to tie a tie, right? And I felt like, no, Bilo, he's never worn a suit really in his whole life. He's going to be on TV with us. I'm going to teach him how to tie a tie, and it's not going to be okay for me to just tie it for him. I'm going to teach him. So we took the time, and you're like an uncle, and I'm like, you know what? That is the best compliment you could ever give me. And so from that point forward, Bilo's called me Uncle B, and that kind of took off. And Spencer started calling me Uncle B, and then Cougar Nation out there. It's funny to me because I'll be someplace. I was in New York not that long ago, and I hear off in the distance, Uncle B, and I turn around, and it's a person that I'm certain is older than me, but they call me Uncle B, and I appreciate that, and I love that you call me that. And here's the fun part. Brian really is family, folks, like to me. And so we've been together for a long, long time, and he's just like one of my own family. Wait.
I got to tell this story. This part is really funny. So there's times, like when we're at the gym together, there's times where people, we'll be talking or Uncle B is talking to somebody, I'll come into the group, and he goes, oh, this is my nephew. And then they'll stop and look and go, really? And I go, yeah, it's my uncle. Like, really? Your real uncle? And then they go, but he's black. And Uncle B goes, I'm colorblind.
That's because I am colorblind, like for real. I can't. I'm red, green, colorblind.
Well, so I'll say that to them. I go, he's colorblind. So and then
we just leave it at that.
we leave it at that. It's so awkward, and then they kind of started laughing. They realize, that we're joking, but we're also actually we're serious as well. So it kind of all works together when we explain the full story. We get a kick out of it.
Yeah, and I love that when we're out together and we introduce one another, and I introduce you as my nephew, and then people say really, and we go yeah, and we just leave it.
Yep.
And then they just walk off. Like, how's that possible? It's like, folks, it's possible. So there's my nephew. He's in tonight, and I love that he's here with us. Things we're going to cover tonight. Let's get into that. BYU hoops, obviously the upset in the NCAA tournament first round. We've got Dave and Garrett Rose in the house. They're going to talk about that along with a bunch of other things. They got some really neat things going on that we're going to talk about with Dave and Garrett tonight. Program that they're launching that I'm really excited to hear about, and I'm certain you all will be excited to hear about as well. To have them here in studio in our secret location in Provo that nobody knows about for security reasons. And so we're going to have them. What else we got coming up, Brian?
Then we have the alumni football game. I'm excited to be here at this moment in order to talk about my perspective of this because we got cheated, man. Navy, we got cheated. We got absolutely cheated.
Why? Because Steve Young went over. He started on your team and went to the other team?
He threw a turnover.
Yeah, he threw a pick.
And then there was points off that turnover. And then he goes on the other team, and they let him. I'm trying to keep my composure. Then they, instead of the normal 4 seconds that you get, to throw before it's a sack, they gave him like 6 or 7 to the point where we started counting.
Below, it's Steve Young.
I don't care. I don't care. I don't care at all.
Do we have any other first ballot Hall of Famers in any sport at BYU?
Nope.
Okay, so then just leave them alone. Leave the man alone. That's the only reason I agreed to play next year, because they said I could also have 6 seconds.
I don't care if I was playing one-on-one Michael Jordan and he was 67 years old. He needs the same rules as me. I'm too competitive. I'm too competitive to let things slide.
We're going to come back to this because I want to pick your brain a little bit about how that felt to be involved in all that. Alumni Day was pretty awesome.
Yeah,
so we'll come back to that. Hey, from BYU women's tennis, we have a legend that's coming in the house, and I'm saying a legend. I don't know that people are aware. You and I were talking about this before. Holly Hassler, who's the women's tennis coach, played 5 seasons in the WTA, like professional tennis, was in the top 100 in the world before she gave it up and came back to Provo and started coaching and all that. So we have a tennis legend that's going to be in the house a little bit later as well. That's going to join us. We're going to talk about BYU women's tennis, but we're going to go back so more people are aware of Holly's background and the greatness that she had as a player before she became a coach. It's really cool the quality of coaches that BYU has in all of their programs and has had over the years. We've got Dave and Garrett in the house. We're going to bring them on here in just a few minutes. They've already come in. They're sitting in the green room. Although the carpet, what color is that carpet again? Because I am colorblind.
It's brown.
So it's normally a green room. They're on a plastic couch on brown carpet, but we're going to call it the green room or the brown room, and they're going to join us in just a minute. Before they do, let's talk about just the NCAA tournament. We're going to ask them about their opinion, but just the stats on it. So Duquesne beats BYU. The 11 seed beats the 6 seed, so it's an upset, 71-67. This league, I covered that league for 10 years for NBC, the Atlantic 10. So really physical basketball league. I've said this and people get mad at me. I'm just like, no, they kind of get the leftovers from the ACC and the Big East. The ACC and the Big East get all the really skilled guys, and the A-10 gets all the really explosive physical dudes. And so that whole league, they hang their hat on physical play and defense. And I think BYU felt that.
Well, they're probably getting guys that are a little bit undersized as well,
they're playing with a chip on their shoulder, and they're
like me.
And if you get in a game where the officials let them be physical, they will be physical. Yeah. And I felt that in that game. BYU goes 8 of 24 from 3. Jackson Robinson was a real bright spot, 25 points in that game. Spencer Johnson, just as he always is, he just brings it every week. He had 11 points and 16 boards. Ali Khalifa didn't look right. He sprained his ankle, and he just hasn't been great since he sprained his ankle a couple of games. So he sat out, and he came back, and I think the physicalness got to him a little bit, but he was 0-6, 0-4 from 3. When he's making threes, it just changes the way you have to defend BYU. When he's not, it's a little easier.
You think the fasting got to him a little bit?
I don't know. It's hard because he played really well first game during Ramadan, and so I don't know.
But I think that was the first 2 days. You know what I mean? You know how it is when you fast. The longest I fasted for was, I think, 2 weeks, where it was sun up, sundown. I could have water, just water, and then I could eat whatever. By the time it was like the 4th, 5th day, I could start feeling like my clothes getting a little baggy. It was hard to do homework. So I did this in high school with my church. It was hard to do homework. It was hard to focus. But the first couple of days, I was like, "Oh, this is easy. I don't know what everybody complaining about in the Bible. I'm good. This is good. We're good." So,
but as time goes on,
we'll blame it on as a religious institution and us being a part. We'll blame it on the ankle.
Yeah, let's just leave it at that. It's the ankle, and Foose was 4 of 12. It seemed like BYU struggled from up close, and that's what. Duquesne was running them off 3-point line, and they didn't convert. Really interested to hear Coach Rose and also Garrett's take on the game. BYU finished the season 23-11, 10-8 in the Big 12, which I think was a big surprise for everybody. I think what we need to do is keep the whole thing in context and go, wow, the season didn't end the way we wanted it to. It's not easy to win NCAA tournament games, but as a whole, I feel like we need to go, wow.
Yeah,
that was beyond expectations, and now they got a great core coming back, and let's get excited for next season. That's the way I'm looking at it. And just to remind people, Dave and I had I don't know if you know off the top of your head, but we had our Final Four picks still alive. Okay. So my Final Four was Houston, Iowa State, North Carolina, and Creighton. I'm gonna go with that. I didn't fill out a bracket. So you're gonna have that too. And here's what's funny: Dave and I did not compare, and then. We were the same.
Nice.
We were the same.
Nice.
So anyhow, that's our Final Four. That's still intact, and the tournament's going on. Let's kind of we'll go through some other campus notes and things in just a minute. Let's bring Dave and Garrett in. Come on in, guys. From the brown carpet, plastic couch green room, we're gonna have them join. Dave will put you right there. And Garrett will have you come over next to me, and you guys can get a headset on. The cord goes on the left hand side, and get that mic up close to you. Guys, I am so excited to have you guys here. And Dave and I have spent a lot of time together over our lifetimes, right?
Yeah, you look a lot better on radio than you do on TV.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So, yeah, no, I know. People see me and say, if they see you on TV, it's interesting to me how people think, we see him on TV, so we know him, so we can say whatever we want. And they come up and say the meanest things. And then I tell them I'm colorblind, they feel bad, but did you wear that tie on purpose with that suit that you had on the other day? Or wow, you look a lot chunky. I've heard this one, chunkier. Mm-hmm. Chunky's bad, right?
Yeah. Well, TV does add 15, 20 pounds.
You look a lot chunkier than I thought you were. Wow.
That's not as bad as going to church and having people tell him what he should have called.
Yeah. You know how that. Yeah, you've had to live that for a long, long time of everybody at church telling you.
Yeah, that's the part.
Why didn't you press? Why didn't you change the lineup going into the second half? Right.
Yep.
So well. This is a good day for us here. to have you both in studio with us. Coach Dave Rose, this is his son, Garrett. I say today is a good day because you guys have launched this motivational, I don't know what you call it. It's a presentation, but you're out and about with this whole program. And it's designed to empower people to make each day a good day. So it's a good day that we've got you guys here in studio.
I don't know how good the day is when we actually show up, but we have done our presentation quite a few times here in the last few months. And my claim to fame with this is that we went to a high school and talked to the team, and they won the state championship. So that makes me really excited.
Nice.
That,
you talked to them the day before?
About a couple weeks before.
And then they went on a tear.
Won the state championship.
You got to take. I would take like.
Oh, he absolutely takes
95% credit. For that.
Remember, we always used to say to you when we would come to the game and you would come and shoot around and you'd go, "Oh my gosh, Dave's been playing it." Like, and you were teasing us, but then we would go, "Dave, do we need to remind you of what your record is on BYU TV?" And then you go, "That's right. It's okay. I'll talk to you guys." We took all credit for all the wins over the years. I want to get a little bit more into today is a good day program, the specifics of. But before we do that, we were just talking about this Duquesne loss. I want your thoughts on that opening round. And it's an upset. Duquesne was 11 seed. BYU is the higher seed. Let's start with you, Dave and Garrett. I want your opinion as well on this.
Well, I just feel terrible for the guys because I watched the team all year long, and they came together so well as a group, and I think surprised a lot of people. I don't think they surprised themselves. I think they expected that they'd come in and at least win as many as they got beat, and most people expected that they'd lose way more than they'd win. And I had a lot of people ask me what I thought before the season started, and I think my very initial response was, hey, I think people will be surprised. This team they were put together and then they all returned, and there's something really special about that. And you don't really know what it is, but when they all decide, especially in today's world, when they all decide to come back, you've got an advantage, and they really did, and they had a great year.
I was talking to my mom because she called me upset, like she was like, yeah, upset, and I said, Mom, I'm not an expert in basketball, but it's safe to say that it's just hard to win an NCAA tournament game, right? Like everybody is there for a reason, and I feel like you're not going to be playing any bums. So she goes, "Oh, okay. That makes me feel good that the competition level, has risen." Then she starts texting me all the games with the blowouts. She's like, "What about this? What about this game? What about this game? What about this game?" So my question to you is, regardless of where you're seated, how hard is it to actually, go into the tournament and win a game?
Well, it's probably as hard as anything that you'll do as far as being a coach or a player in that situation. But I will tell you this, that when you do finally break through and you do win a game, it's as good a feeling as I've had as an athlete, a competitor, a coach, and this team it's on its way. I mean, they got a lot of guys coming back. We were really fortunate. We played 3 games in the NCAA tournament until we got our first win. The fourth time in was when we got our win, and when we got that win, we beat Florida, I think, in overtime.
Yeah.
And then we played Kansas State, got off to a great start in that game, and then ended up getting beat. But we got all the guys back, and we come back the next year, and that was when we made a run to the Sweet 16, got beat in the Sweet 16 in overtime to basically the same Florida team we'd beat the year before. That was pretty.
But that Florida team went to the Final Four that year, did they not? Yeah.
Well, I think I think we would have played Butler. Pittsburgh was number 1. And I think Florida and Butler played.
Oh, okay, and then Butler went on to that. Okay, so and you've done the NCAA tournament thing as a player, where you went all the way to the championship game. What's that like? And how hard is that? Even when you're loaded with Hall of Famers.
You know, everyone remembers, you know, us beating Louisville in the Final Four, and what a great game that was, and all the dunks and everything. But they don't remember the first game against Maryland, where we go in at halftime down about 6 or 7, and Lefty Drizel's pumping that left fist to the crowd, and you know, we were playing in Houston in that game. But that was as hard as any game that we had to play all year long and get through. And we won the game and then had a chance to get to the Final Four. It is, the NCAA tournament is, every coach will tell you how special it is, but the way it really feels when you get there is indescribable. You can only experience it. And once you experience it, then it's like you're in a club that everybody knows that's what happened. And you know, when you look at a team like Utah State, as great as the season they've had this year, and they won that first game, and they go into that second game, and there's even people picking them to win. You know, they're playing Purdue, and then wham, it all goes wrong. And I've been there too, and that's hard. It's hard to explain that, but it's a very, very unique experience. But it's as special as anything when you win that thing.
Yeah,
that makes
a lot of sense.
You know, it's kind of like when I was on the team that upset Oklahoma, and I tell people this all the time. I'm like, it's hard to explain the actual feeling. You know, you kind of have to be there, and even the fans that were there.
That was me. I was there.
You were there.
Yeah. I was there. I was on the sidelines.
Maybe one of the coolest things ever. I mean, that stadium was brand new. I think we were like the first ones in.
First official game. Yeah,
unbelievable.
I have to say, when I stood, and I've done this at college basketball games before that BYU has won, I was standing down in the corner, and Oklahoma came out, and their offensive line walked past me, and I went up and down each guy, and I went, we have no chance. Like, we have no chance in this game. We do not look like these dudes. But a team that played together and was ferocious on defense and fearless on offense, they took down. I think even you guys on the team would admit that was a more athletic team.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But the more athletic team doesn't always win.
I think they ended up having like 5 or 6 first rounders, not that year, but overall. You know, from that entire class, from their freshman to their senior year.
You have to be there to experience either as a fan or in. Garrett, I want to turn to you, and I want to come back to now to the today is a good day. Take us through the brainstorm that got you to this, and how did you come up with that theme, that name for a theme?
Well, the big thing for us was that we really wanted to get a chance for people to experience kind of the things that we've been through together. We realized collectively, between some of the things that I've gone through in my life, and obviously with my dad's health challenges, we've been through a lot. And we really, you know, we talk about it a lot, and we just realized that there was a message out there for people to just understand that when things are going bad, that you can still find goodness and happiness in life. And so today is a good day. That came from an interview that my mom and dad were doing for, I think, the Deseret News, right after you had come back from your initial diagnosis of pancreatic cancer. And during that interview, my mom had put, "Today is a good day." And they wrote that in the article, just a small little tiny piece in this long, big article. And then there was the game, the Coaches versus Cancer game, where you guys were in all pinks, and one of the fans, in a myriad, because it was Jimmer and it was hype and everybody was there, and there were signs and everything else, but there was a fan that had brought out a sign that said, "Today is a good day." Nice. And they had found
He just so happened to be a cancer patient.
Yes.
Who was recovering from cancer. Last time I had seen him, he was bald, and he actually had his hair back, and so that was really pretty unique situation just in that experience.
Yeah. And what take us through this? So you start talking about this and what you've been through, and feeling like, hey, there's a message here that we can share with people. Then what made you decide, let's put something formal together and take this thing out on the road? Like,
well, let me answer that first.
Okay.
I think it was my wife wanted to get me out of the house. Okay, she'd had enough, and I don't blame her. I mean, it's been.
I'm not going to say that's true, but we've had that conversation.
It's been pretty serious.
And I know her well, and I would say that does not surprise me. Okay.
And I mean, if you can imagine this, we wait our entire career, okay, all 35 whatever years I coached to retire, and then we take a great trip to Italy for a month, and we think that's going to be our life, for the rest of our lives. And then I have a heart attack 2 nights later when I get home. And right after that heart attack, then we have COVID, and then I end up having a stroke, and and I can't have my normal regular cancer treatments for 2 years, a year and a half, 2 years. And then when I go back in to have my cancer checkups, I need to have the surgery. Cancers would come back. They removed one of my kidneys, and that was as tough a surgery as I've been through. That was a year and a half to almost just recover from that. Wow. And so you add up the time that we've had. We've basically, my wife has taken care of me for the 4.5 years of us being retired. I guess this month will be 5 years. And so I think she's just decided, hey, maybe it's time for Dave to go do something. Yeah. And so Garrett made this up, and we've had some fun with it.
So were you the driving force? So she wants him out of the house, and he realizes, and I'm not saying like you're here in person. I don't know what people can see. You look really good right now. Are you feeling as good as you look? I hope.
At times, I feel really good.
You look really good.
You look fantastic, as good as I've seen you in a number of years, and I'm so happy for that.
Thanks.
So I'm going to ask you this. Like, I know your dad well. Like, we've known each other for a long, long time. He's a very private person.
Yeah.
He and I would talk in private, and he would, on private moments, just one-on-one before games and things, and we would share things. And I just know he's a private person. He really is. To convince him to share this story, how did you do this? How did you get him to go out of the house and agree to go out and do this?
It took a lot, because that is something that is a big part of our family. Is we've gone through a lot of things privately. And, there were times where he's going through his health concerns, and we're over here trying to worry about if the nurses and the doctors are going to tell people that Dave Rose is in the recovery room or in the emergency room. And later we find out on the recruiting trail that there's coaches that are out there having their messages with players saying, you're not going to go play for BYU. Coach is going to die. You can't go play for BYU.
That's crazy.
So we were trying to keep everything that we were kind of going through as a family private. And
his coach, man, that's recruiting. That's what I call dirty recruiting.
That is, yeah.
That's not okay.
That's bad.
That was probably.
Do you guys want to name any names on this show? No, okay. That's crazy. But
if you would like to name some names,
yes,
just we could put them on the table, and then I will pronounce them.
Just so you know, that's not the worst thing that happened.
That's
my goodness.
Oh, really?
Oh my gosh. The stories that he has told about the recruiting trail and what it was like back in the day. Now it's all. It's easy. It's just you throw money at kids legally, technically, with NIL. But, I mean, he would come back and tell me these stories, and it was unbelievable. I don't think people will ever realize how hard it was for him to recruit players when they had chances to go all over with all kinds of money going to them or their AAU coaches or their.
You mean when family. NIL was behind the scenes and BYU couldn't do it before NIL was real?
Before it was legal.
It's still tough. I mean, this does not make it any easier to sign players. It probably makes it tougher. I think that and now we've got one more year with that extra year of player. We've got that 5th-year guy that's still around for. I think once that we get past that, I think once that kids understand this a little bit more and they feel it, that this is going to be a little bit easier and it's going to feel more normal. I think right now it still feels, hey, let's get what we can, and guys are running from year to year, from place to place. I think it'll settle down. I think it's really good for the players. I mean, you think about these players and what they put in their whole lives to get to that spot, and then who's making all the money? I mean, somebody else was making all the money, and the fact that the players get a chance for that, I think it's a great thing. But it is way different. Way different.
Yeah. Hey, former BYU basketball coach and Hall of Famer Dave Rose, his son Garrett are on the Wise Guys with us tonight, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, wiseguys.com, all over the world. We have folks that join us every week from the Philippines and from Panama, and it's crazy. BYU Cougar Nation is around the world, and we it's evidence every week when we do this show. Garrett, you've had some issues yourself that you've had to battle through, and while your dads have been a little more, even though you've tried to keep it private. He's been an all-purpose public figure, so it's
Yeah.
out there, right? But yours haven't been out there. Take us through some of the things that you've been through and how that has helped you put this thing together, and how you were out telling your story. You can both jump in on that.
Yeah, my story starts kind of in high school. I was an offensive lineman. Speaking of those offensive linemen from Oklahoma, I was a 310-pound left tackle.
I remember when he was that big too.
310. Yeah, I had an 850-pound deadlift and a 725 squat and a 4.940 as a senior in high school.
That's crazy.
And so I was getting recruited. I had offers to play Utah, BYU, Oregon, Washington, Stanford, Navy. And I'd had some surgery on both of my shoulders to just fix some tendons that were kind of loose. And I ended up playing my senior year through just excruciating pain on my right shoulder. And it wasn't healing correctly, and I couldn't get the rehab done right, and just mind-numbing pain. And so finally the season ends, and I go to the doctor, and I say, something's wrong, we got to fix it. And it turns out that I ended up having a staph infection from the previous surgery.
Gosh.
So I had gone about 4.5 months with this staph infection, and by the time they found it, it had completely deteriorated my shoulder, the
This
bone.
was in season. You had the infection.
Yeah. So I played through, and just kept playing and playing and playing. And so
I gave him really good advice as a father. Hey, just suck it up and play.
As
you
they
and
say,
all my
hey,
coaches.
life is rough. Put a helmet on. Let's go.
That's true.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah, you and all my coaches and everybody else, because we just thought, hey, it's fixed. You had surgery. You'll be fine. Just keep playing, keep playing. But the challenge with that is that ended up leading to a shoulder replacement surgery when I was 17 years old. And I had to call these coaches one by one and tell them I wasn't going to be able to do my recruiting trips. Football was over for me. And that was devastating at the time, and ultimately you can look back now, and life is great when you can look back. Sometimes life is really, really hard when you're in the moment.
Yeah.
But when you get a chance to look back, you can see the good that transition was for me. Because had I kept going that way, it wasn't probably going the right path. But instead, it led me to a path of having a career in the nonprofit world and working with different nonprofits to make a difference. But even through that, there's definitely been a lot of challenges, especially with I had the surgery, and then I've had multiple surgeries kind of coming up to that. And it was back in a time when doctors were just like, hey, here's surgery, here's some pills, prescriptions, here you go. It's good for you, it's fine, it's going to take away your pain, you're going to be good. And so I actually had developed a dependency to these prescription pills, and it was years and years where I hid this from everybody, my family, my mom, my spouse, my parents. Nobody knew. I just was rolling through life just pretending like things were good.
Right.
And ultimately, it came to a stopping point where I realized this was a major, major problem, and I needed to do something with my life. And through, of course, angels in our world, my wife, she caught me one day when I just said this was it. This was kind of my last day, and she stopped me that morning and she just said, "Are you okay?" And she'd asked me that 1,000 times, and she asked me on the day that I needed it, and I just said, "No, I'm not." And I finally just opened up and kind of shared what was going on, and we both decided at that point to kind of get some help and seek treatment. And so went to a treatment center and got some answers, got some wisdom, and that's been over 5 years. So I've had 5 years of sobriety since then.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What a story. Amazing. And not easy.
Yeah.
So you've both been through it. And not many people have to go through what you guys have been through, but everybody has something they're going through, right?
Yeah.
And you guys have put this together to help those people. So how does it work, and where are you taking it? And what's the response been like from people as you've in the early part of this?
Well, I'm going to tell you, we've given quite a few speeches, and I still have issues with my stroke, and so sometimes I say things that maybe in my mind is exactly how it happened, but it really didn't happen that way. But
It makes it so entertaining.
Yes, it's like,
but I do know that we gave a little presentation a few weeks ago to a high school basketball team,
Right.
and that high school basketball team, after our presentation, they'd been to the state championship game 2 or 3 times and had been beat all 3 times. And this coach wanted something, and there was somebody to say something to these guys to get over the hump. And anyways, they ended up winning the state championship. So I got that going for me.
yeah.
cool.
Is
There
that,
you go.
let's see. was that wasn't who just beat?
That was Enterprise High.
Oh, so Enterprise.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You tell me. I mean, you talk about these young men. We walked into that room.
Greatest kids, my God.
Every one of these, they walked into that room and walked right up to us, looked us right in the eye, shook our hands, and introduced themselves, said their name, and then they all sat down. And for this presentation, they were locked in. Their eyes were just glued. And I had talked with their coach previously. He called me and he just said, "Look, we need something to get past that hump," like my dad was saying, and we've got to. There's something. There's got to find something. Will you just come and talk to him?
Yeah.
So we'll take the credit because he was asking for us to give him the something. But no, in that message, one of the things that we did is we talked about the idea that every single one of you is going through something, and we do a little project when it's smaller groups where they can kind of identify those things. But I talk about this all the time. If we walked around and we had a bubble that was above us that said the things that we're going through, and it also said the things that we're really good at, I mean, we would be so much closer as a society.
Oh, yeah.
Because we would be walking around going, "You too?
Right.
Me? Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that." And so that was kind of part of our message that we've been sharing with the people is, it's okay not to be okay, because if you can make today a good day, that you're going to get through.
Right.
You don't have to worry about tomorrow. This is my dad taught me when I was going through some really hard things. You don't have to worry about next week. You don't have to worry about tomorrow. Just worry about today. And if that's what it takes to get through today, then focus on that, and then you can worry about tomorrow.
That to me, the very best part of that is the team itself. They had 6 seniors on their team, and I think that they'd been through so much together that was bad that they would just wanted anything to happen so that they could go through something really good. And winning a state championship at Enterprise High School is something that's happened a lot, at least quite a few times in the last decade or so. And they wanted to have that. And I was just really excited to spend the time that we spent with them because they were all just so locked in. Please, this is what we want. And it was a good time. It was a good time. We did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this directed just for like athletes and sports teams or anybody?
We've kind of got a universal apply here because we really it's up to kind of the people who want it. So we've done keynote speeches with companies, big presentations with thousands of people, and we've done it with a high school in their classroom. So for us, it's the opportunity to get out and share. For me, selfishly, it gives me time to spend with my dad, which we didn't have a whole lot of that time during his career. He was a busy guy, and most of our time was spent together on the road and traveling and going to the games. But now we get to do this together, and so I love it selfishly because it gives us that time together. But really, it's an opportunity for anybody that just wants to have a message for us to come out and share it with them.
Hey,
I love it because my wife wants me out of the house.
Hey, but we love, one of the fun things about this show is people on the chat from around the world can chime in. There's a couple of really nice comments on here. Dr. Ketch says, "Hey, so cool, Garrett. Thanks for being transparent and sharing your story. It's helpful for many, I'm sure." Which absolutely. And then Linda Murray says, "Grateful Garrett got help when he needed it, and his wife was there for him. Dave and Cheryl have been inspirational to us. I've met them several times and think the world of what they have done together." That's really, really cool. And then another one, BYU Sports Addict says, "I've got great respect for Coach Rose. So glad to see him on the show. Can you ask him, is there one event or moment that stands out in your mind above all others in your coaching career at BYU?"
Wow.
It probably goes back to Dixie when you were in the middle of coaching and I asked you for money for a hot dog.
I used to sit behind the bench, but we had to put a nix on that
after he was begging for money in the middle of the game.
I was
That's
hungry.
a distraction. Yeah, is there a seminal moment at BYU that you remember?
We had so many great moments, and Cheryl, at this time of year, especially in the NCAA tournament, we get a chance to talk about things that were really special for us. And I think that the greatest thing for me was just the day that this is going to be hard to talk about, but it was when I came back from Vegas and I was diagnosed with cancer. I was up at Huntsman for a week, and then I got to come home. And the first thing I wanted to do was come and visit with our team and kind of tell them that I thought that everything was going to be okay, even though I didn't really know what was going to happen. But that time with the team was as good as any time I've ever spent with any team. And we went on from that. We just been beat by in the NCAA tournament, and we had an unbelievable hour. So it was the first time I actually let my wife speak to the team. But that group went on, and we won the first game in the NCAA tournament. And then the next year, that group won 2 games in the NCAA tournament. And so that's kind of like I still, think that we got a lot of help, and I received a lot of things that will stay with me forever. That's for sure.
That's a neat thing to share, because I think most people go, "Oh, he's going to say the march through the NCAA tournament and Jimmer Mania in 2011," but all of that started.
That was
with
really fun.
Yeah, that was fun too, right?
And
that was really fun,
and,
right?
and beating Gonzaga when I had the newspaper 30-0,
Yes.
And they hadn't played the game yet.
Right.
There's some amazing
And then
moments.
we let them get ahead 18-2. Okay, and we called timeout. So we got them right where we want them. We had a lot of good stuff.
Man, you had on the floor. I mean, you had a couple of Gonzaga games.
Yeah.
That were really, really fun.
3 in a row.
And that run with Jimmer, right? Mm-hmm. That was really, really fun. But it's fun that you picked out a moment with the team as your number one.
That group of guys, they'll be really special for us forever.
Mm-hmm. And I'll look at it from my perspective. I've had a behind the scenes kind of access to everything you can want when it comes to basketball. And you talk about winning and losing in that tournament. I don't think people truly understand how hard it is to win in that tournament. And I think what happens, and sometimes we as BYU fans, we get a little blue goggled, and we have our expectations really, really high. Yeah. And our measurement of success is whether or not we win in that tournament. And I think sometimes we've got to look at it and say, what is the true measurement of success? Because in basketball, if your true measurement of success is finishing on a win, there's only one team that gets to do that.
Right.
This isn't football where you got bowl games and half those teams win. You have one team that can consider themselves successful, but if you take back everything that it takes to get to the tournament, that truly is one of the hardest things to do, is just get there, right? It's a small group that actually make it. And so as I've been behind the scenes and I've seen the hours and the days, and I mean, how many days in a row where he would go to bed at 2 or 3 in the morning because he was trying to take what they had just got from a loss and turn it into the next game, and then turn around and game plan for the next. And anyway, I just think I hope that we as fans can see the success that BYU basketball had this year and not look at it like, oh my gosh, it's another trip to the tournament where we didn't win a Final Four. Well, only 4 teams get to do that.
Right. I also think that you've got to really remember how difficult the game is. No matter where you're seated, no matter where they send you, you're playing a team that's just gone through the same thing you have. 6 months of just torture every 2 or 3 days playing a game, and they've won most of their games. They're not used to losing. It's not like playing the named school in December in a tournament in Puerto Rico or somewhere. Mm-hmm. You're playing a team who's been through the 6 months, and their record is probably pretty close to what your record is. And if you've won 25 games, they've probably won close to 25 games. And so they're not used to losing either. So you're playing a team who has spent the entire last year winning games. And to knock them off, it takes a real effort and takes them a little bit of experience, takes a lot of it just takes a lot more than people think.
Yeah, I think people discount this Duquesne game a little bit because they go, well, they didn't even win their league. Well, guess what? They got hot at the end of the year and won a bunch of games and won 4 games in their tournament and won their conference tournament.
Those are the hardest
Those
guys.
are tough, right? Because they're hot.
Look at North Carolina State. I mean, they're still playing, and they had lost 4 in a row going into their tournament too. They won 5 straight games, and then they won 2 in the tournament, so they won 7 in a row. It's a good time. If you're going to win 7 in a row, it's much better to win the 7 in a row in March than it is in
in December.
November. Yeah. So you can quote me on that every year, okay? If you're going to win 7 in a row, it's a lot better.
BYU's beaten 3 NCAA Sweet 16 teams. They have wins over Iowa State and North Carolina State. that ended up being a much better win than anybody thought. And then
that was a tough game. We were there in Vegas, watched that game, and North Carolina State was really good in the first half, but BYU played as good a half as maybe they played all year in the second half in that game to get that win. That was a big
and then
one.
Dutch has his guys. I know Dutch is a good friend of yours that down at San Diego State. They're playing really well down the stretch again. It feels like to me with San Diego State every year, they're so good defensively they can just go hack a game out even when they're not shooting in the NCAA tournament. There's something to be said for that in tournament play.
And Dutch had an unbelievable run last year. And this year, he got a little bit lucky the second round. He got to play a 13 seed, I think. And Yale, obviously, a great team. But I think if you would ask anybody, any coach, 365 of them, and they said, do you want to play Auburn or do you want to play Yale? I think most of them would tell you, I'll take Yale.
I'll take Yale.
Yeah,
for sure.
So they got a break. They got a break. They don't get a break now, though. They go play Connecticut.
Yeah, they don't get a break at all. And now the buck stops here. So Dave and Garrett Rose on the Wise Guys tonight with us. By the way, this stat blows me away. 348 wins at BYU. That's unbelievable to me. 8 NCAA tournament berths. And the head coach through Jimmer Mania. We just talked about Jimmer a little bit. We were talking about this before about Jimmer Mania could come back, right, Brian, this summer. What do you think? Is the world ready for Jimmer Mania again in the Olympics with this 3-on-3 thing?
Well, wait, before we get to that, can you imagine Jimmer Mania in NIL?
Millions of dollars in merchandising, right?
Can you imagine?
Oh, my goodness.
I hate to even bring that up because Jimmer and Whitney are probably thinking, right, they spend a lot of time wondering if they were maybe born about 10 years
He's been
too
on
early.
a couple of times, and I said, what do you think you could have made in NIL? He goes, Blaine, I don't even want to talk about it.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, I don't even want to talk about that.
How much do you think so you look at some guys like Deion Sanders' son, Shador, I think he makes like 4 point something.
Jimmer was a multi-million a year guy.
Jimmer, easily would have. I would have said. I would said minimum 10.
Well, and the thing is, it's like at what point, right? Because when we started seeing the greatness in Jimmer, then you think, okay, this guy's pretty good. And then that next year, it took a lot for you to convince him to come back. You used to be able to have those exit interviews, and you had to convince kids with your words. Now you have to convince kids with money. Yeah. In some circumstances, but that year, getting him to come back would have taken some serious boosters.
I think you probably would have had maybe 5 to 10 top boosters lining up, saying, "Hey, whatever we need to bring."
He can be my spokesperson. Right? He can be our spokesperson.
Absolutely.
So. Yeah, and then in merchandising, because now they can go out and do their own. Like he could go create a clothing line now if he wanted to. And he was a national phenomenon. I think he could have sold a bunch of clothes.
Wasn't he on commercials?
Oh yeah, well, he did a whole bunch of commercials and they billboards and
without getting paid.
Yeah.
Of course, of course, and that's what you're talking about, right, Dave? Where it really wasn't fair before.
It wasn't. What's happening now is fair. We just got to get used to it and figure out how we're going to react to it. These kids, they're committed to what they do and how they do it, and they're good at it. And I'm really happy that they're getting an opportunity to be rewarded for it.
Well, I can't wait for some Jimmer Mania in the Olympics.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun.
He's as good a 3-on-3 player because the space out there, and it's half court and.
You don't have to guard that long.
Nope, you have to guard just a very short period of time.
Shot comes quick.
He's special.
You don't have to waste all that time running from one free throw line to the other free throw line.
Just shoot threes.
Yeah. It's a great game. Cheryl and I were in Vegas watching my granddaughter. She swims here at BYU, and they were having a meet at UNLV, but they just got invited to the Olympics. Whatever they did, they finished high enough to where
they took the silver in the world championship.
They got an automatic invitation to come and didn't have to go through some more qualifying. So I was so happy for him. So called him and we talked for a while, and he just told me, he said, "This is when I signed up, I just didn't really know, but my goodness, this is so fun." He said, I probably a little more travel than he wanted to be because he really is a family guy. But he says that the game itself, the 3-on-3 game, is something that he just really, really loves to play.
Yeah, and he is made for it. So
he is. Sure.
Another comment in says, "Wow, Coach Rose, what a story! Life brings us things we don't expect. Thanks for sharing this." we're so grateful that you guys would come in. We do a thing called 5 questions, and Coach has been on before, so we already did his 5 questions. So now we're a little twist. This is a little twist tonight. We're going to finish with 5 questions, but I'm going to ask you things about him, and then he's going to tell us if you're right or not.
Oh, jeez.
Only if we get unfiltered Dave.
Yeah.
So unfiltered Dave.
Well,
is the
we told
best.
him the first time. You just whatever comes to your head.
First,
but
yeah,
but
first
so
comes up.
so this is instead of like your favorite sports movie, like in how we did with you before. This is you're gonna tell us what you think Garrett's is, and then he's gonna tell us what it actually is. We're gonna see how close you guys are. So traveling around together and all that. So
All right.
So by the way, I wouldn't do really well on any of this with any of my. I love my boys, but I don't think I would do very good with these guys. Maybe Gavin, because he lives at our house.
I would do really well because my boys they're 12 and 8, so
Yeah.
they're kind of I can't like I'm watching movies with them. I'm eating cereal and stuff.
That's
with
a
them,
great
so,
time because they still really like you.
Yeah, they
Oh,
still
yeah.
think
Oh,
you're
they're
great. They
attached
still
to
think
us.
you know
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
So, and then you know what though?
It all
Isn't this
comes
what-
back.
It comes back. At some point, when they're married and have kids, they go, Dad, you know what? You were right. That's the payback. But
Yeah.
it takes years to get to the payback.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay, so here we go. Number 1, Garrett's favorite sports movie. What do you think it is?
Favorite sports movie, the Notre Dame one with
Rudy.
Rudy.
You got it.
Nice,
So,
nice.
okay.
Nice.
Okay. So he's 1 for 1. See, we're doing good so
The
far.
underdog. Just the
Right.
classic
Yeah.
underdog.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Garrett's favorite singer or band, his favorite music group or a solo artist.
Whoa. I didn't let him listen to any of the stuff he really liked.
He took my CD out of the car and threw it out of the car.
Oh, see? So what was that?
Yeah, what CD was
no,
that?
you don't tell
I
yet.
don't know. I don't know, but some dude who swore a lot, okay?
Tupac.
It was my Eminem. That was my
Eminem.
Eminem. I give him half
You know
a point
what?
for that.
When he said, I'm giving him credit for that. Some dude that swore a lot. That's Eminem. Was that your favorite?
That counts. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
that counts.
Because you only got 1 shot, just 1 opportunity.
Okay. That's
So we're giving him 2 for 2 on that one because
Okay.
some guy who swore was on the money
I'm
for
with,
this.
I'm with
so-
you there.
Yeah.
I'm with you
Okay,
there.
so Garrett's favorite breakfast cereal.
My goodness. We didn't have a lot of breakfast there. My wife would get up and cook him, a great breakfast every morning.
Cheryl is the
good
mom.
mom. That's good
Cheryl
mom.
is the word. She's been running for mom of the year.
I'm
That's right.
going to
Right.
say my favorite, Frosted Flakes.
Frosted
Well,
Flakes.
I've got 4 boys, and so now we have a lot of sugar cereal.
Yes.
Lots. It's their go-to. Lucky Charms.
Lucky
Oh,
Charms.
that's a good one.
See?
Those are good.
I like that. That's pretty. So Frosted Flakes, Lucky Charms.
Yeah.
I'm going to give them a half a credit because they're both really good sugar cereals.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give them a half a credit for that one. Garrett's favorite BYU moment. You talked about yours, which was actually a team meeting after you had come back, which I thought was amazing. What was Garrett's favorite BYU moment in his experience on the ride with you?
I'm going to say the win at Gonzaga when they were number 1 in the country, and the papers had all come out with the 30-0 undefeated season, and I gave it to my team at a pregame meal. I got copies of that paper and gave it to all the players, and they talked about it, and we got down 18-2, but we ended up winning the game, and he talks about that all the time.
What do you think?
I do. That is one of my favorite ones, but my absolute favorite has to be the win at San Diego, Mania.
San Diego State.
San Diego State.
Against Kawhi in the group.
Yeah.
So I had decided that I was going to make it to that game, and I had knee surgery, and so I'm hobbling. We're late. Our plane was delayed, and so we're coming in the stadium as the game's starting, and I come hobbling down the stairs. I've got a cast on my leg, and all of a sudden I realize I'm about 6 seats in is where my seat is, and I can't sit down because my leg. I didn't think about this.
Yeah.
And so I'm standing there, and everyone's telling me to sit down, and so I'm trying to figure out what to do. So my uncle says, just go sit on the end. Well, sitting on the end is Tom Homo. So I had to kick my dad's boss out of his seat so that I could sit down and put my legs straight. And I said, I hope they win. They got to win this game and they did. They
And
did.
both teams are ranked in the top 5, I think, at that time.
That was unbelievable.
And I called every one of those, by the way, that whole year, and I called that New Mexico game of Jimmers down in Thomas and Mack, which was nuts. What a year! There's so many good moments. I'll take that Gonzaga game too.
There's so many things that you remember, but I can remember that San Diego State game and it being a afternoon game and a CBS game, and we start that thing off, and our first possession offensively is awful. And we're moving that thing, and we finally throw it to Charles in the corner. He flings it up there. It hits the backboard and banks in.
From the corner?
From the corner. That's how we started the game. And I looked over my assistant coach, Punch, and I said, here we go.
Here we go. Absolutely. Oh, that was a special. So my one of my favorite games ever to call over the years was the game up at Utah when Jimmer had 33 in the first half. And he made the half-court shot at halftime. And it's because Jimmer, on the call, sometimes on the Sports Center plays of the day, the top 10 plays of the day, they'll voice it over, or they'll just take the call of the game. So I was doing the game for NBC, and Jimmer makes that shot, and then it's just quiet, and then I go, look at him. He's just like it's no big deal. Like, hey, I'm Jimmer Fredette. That's what I do. I make shots. So they took that whole audio of me as the number one play of the day on Sports Center that night. All my friends from New York called. They go, Jimmer Fredette just made you the play of the day. Jimmer and I talk about it, and he's like, you've been riding my coattails for years.
So, we all have.
So that's my favorite. We've all been riding Jimmer's coattails. So
we can't give, we're not going to give him credit for that one because he said San Diego State. So, but he's 2.5 out of 4.
Those are 2 good games, though. So I'll take the loss.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. Yeah. I'll take either of those. Okay, so the last one is, what do you think Garrett's favorite bit of advice that you've ever given him was?
That he actually thinks is
that's it. He thought was good. That he thought was good, and it can even be now. Like he could have thought it was bad for a while, but he's come around because he's an adult now.
I would say that I don't know. I've probably given him more advice than he would have liked, but when he had the problems with his shoulder and realized that he wasn't going to keep his career, I gave him advice that what you do with your life, has very little to do with sports, but everything to do with your heart and what you become committed to and what you do. And he became the state champion of some cooking contest that he got involved in. Nice. And he went back to Minnesota in a national competition and he's been representing Utah. And so when I think of whatever I told him, we got to move on, and you got to find something that you're passionate about, and let's go. He actually listened to me on that one.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah, and it goes back to that moment, and that post game speech, as you will, that he gave me after the doctors gave me the bad news was kind of the first time I remember him telling me, you can't worry about the things you don't have control over. Mm-hmm. And he would give me that advice many times in my lifetime. A very, very close friend passed away, and I was on a 2-year mission, and I had a phone call with them when they told me the news, and I was having a really, really difficult time, and he'd said that again then. And then when I was going through everything with my shoulder and with the dependency, he told me again, you can't worry about the things you don't have control over. And it all stemmed back from that post-game speech he gave me in the doctor's office, University of Utah Hospital.
Nice.
Yeah, that's, you know what? I'm giving him a 5 out of 5. I don't care that he missed one. He missed one, but I'm going to ignore that he missed one. Yeah, and I'm giving Dave a 5 out of 5.
After official review.
Yeah. After further review of the show that we do in the fall. Yeah. After further review, Dave goes 5 for 5 on the 5 questions. I think for sure. So, you guys, we're so grateful that you would come in and spend some time with us, because we know your time is valuable, and I appreciate the friendship that we've had for all these years. You're doing great things. We're really excited for you. We're really proud of you. Today is a good day is the name of the program. And any last words you want to leave with us before we let you head out of here?
Here's one thing. Today is a good day, but tell me how we were getting your pool ready this morning, and it's snowing up here in Provo.
I don't understand. It's not as good a day up here as it is down in St. George.
Do you guys still have the place out in Paradise, or not in Paradise Village? It's
out in Kayenta.
Yeah. You still have the place out there.
We live there full time now, and it's interesting to look at the little weather app and see the 32s and 34s and the 62s and 64s.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're only 4 hours apart.
It's a big difference.
It's
If
crazy.
I'm getting tired of it, so I may be down to play golf with you before too long. So, so guys, thanks for coming on. We feel very blessed that you've come and joined us, and I know that everybody that's out in Cougar Nation around the world is glad that you came and shared your
If
message
you are
with us.
somewhere and you want to, kill a couple hours and have us come by, Garrett's the guy.
Yeah, Garrett, how do they get a hold? Can we put it in the chat? How do we learn? It's
Yeah.
it's-
RoseSpeakers.com.
Yeah, so Jack's already put it in the chat here. So learn more about it, www.rosespeakers.com, and they can tap into it and see what you guys have and have you come and
We'd love to.
help
We'll
share the story.
speak about anything, but I don't know much about too much. But I know a little bit about our time at BYU and our basketball. But
You've got some amazing life lessons to
Yeah,
share,
absolutely.
and we appreciate it. So
Thanks,
thank you
guys.
guys. Thanks
Yeah,
so much.
appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Dave Rose and Garrett Rose, his son. Today is a good day. It's just awesome stuff. We got Holly Hassler in the house. She's in the green room. Oh, she's not officially in it. She's kind of sitting off from the green room.
She's in the makeup room. That's what it was.
She was in the makeup room.
Yeah, that was the makeup room.
I don't know what color's that chair that she was in.
Burgundy.
See, everybody knows I'm colorblind.
Burgundy.
But she did move from the makeup chair into the brown carpet room, green room that we have, and we'll have Holly on here in just a minute. Let's just go through a couple of things here, and as Dave and Garrett make their way out and visit Holly for just a second. Couple of notes. Women's hoops in the WBIT. They lose to Santa Clara 60-59. They were on the line with 2 free throws, missed the second free throw, 0.4 of a second to play to take it into overtime, and that
one hurt me.
That hurt me too. So they ended the season 16-17, 6-12 in Big 12, and Amber Whiting's second year. And we talked about it a little bit with BYU men's basketball. Mm-hmm. They played like nobody expected them to win 6 games in that league this year, and it's a league with some of the top teams in the country, and they have a nucleus of young guards coming back this next year, and a lot of promise. They're going to try to pick up some new bigs here in the offseason, and I think they'll be much more competitive in this second year.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think Coach Rose talked about it too. Having that experience and having the chemistry and years together, right, really makes a difference.
Yeah.
And so the bright side is that this team is young, and the I would say the off-season challenge is to keep the team together. Right?
Yes. Yeah. So hey, tell folks about the alumni game, because you participated in the whole alumni day and the alumni game. Like fill folks in on what that was all about.
First of all, it was rigged. That's the first thing I would say. No, it was. I had a blast. You know why this was the funnest one that I've been to out of the 3 is because it was at Provo High School, right?
Mm-hmm.
Old Provo High School. And the way that the setup was, it was so engaging with the current athletes. So there were some recruits that were there. There were, the current players. And I can't remember the last couple of years where the current players were on the sidelines with us. I think there were some recruits, right? But I remember a few coming up to us after it was over and shaking our hands and whatnot. But you had at least 40 dudes.
It was so fun.
It was, and I loved how they had the setup where they had tents and they had couches, so they were right on top of us, which is why I said earlier in the show they were clowning me, making fun of me.
Yeah.
And they were and you saw what happened with Brandon Bradley, right?
Right.
I mean, they were right on top of us, clowning us and calling us old, and that engagement right there. And I didn't know who any of them were, and so it's fun getting to know, seeing a face, to the name once you figured out who they were, and to really see their personalities. Man, it was, and then obviously the actual game, right? And it's such a blessing. How long were we out after the game was over, right?
Honestly, when everybody else was gone, I was down on the field an hour and a half after the game with Kalani and Jack DeMooney and Brian Keel.
Yep.
And we were having a debate over who's the best linebacker ever to play at BYU. We got it down to Kyle Van Noy. Now, we're not talking about the pros. Fred, obviously.
Yeah.
Like Fred Warner's the best defender in the National Football League right now.
Right.
But in college, it came down to Kyle Van Noy versus Kurt Govea. And all I'm going to say is,
Kyle.
No, we
Kyle.
left split.
Oh, okay.
We left split. It was a split decision. But
Okay.
an hour and a half after the game, we were standing on that turf. And how fun is it to connect the past with the present? What a great job Kalani's done with that. Steve Young threw a touchdown pass to Olave. How about that? I know you say it was rigged. Max Hall, a touchdown pass to Cody Hoffman. Riley Nelson, a touchdown pass to Mitch Juergens. Jake Heaps, a touchdown pass. So how fun to have Jake back in the house.
Yeah.
He throws one to Cody Hoffman. And then Jackson Brown, fun to have Jackson back, a touchdown pass to Neil Paulo. In the game winner, the Navy prevails 18-13. It was all on BYU TV Live, and so you can go back into the archives and watch it if you didn't get a chance to watch it. If you want to see a first ballot Hall of Famer come back who was up on campus speaking to the Management Society, told his plane up in Salt Lake to wait a little while because he heard it was the alumni night game, comes down, they talked Steve Young into playing, and then he threw a pick on the first drive when he was on your team. He switched teams and then engineered a long drive for a score.
That's what makes me mad, you know. So there's 14 points, right, that went against the Navy team.
Yeah, no, I know. So Steve single-handedly won the game for the team that you were playing against.
Yeah,
so.
but he did it outside of the normal the normal rules that everybody else is playing.
Yes,
that's what I think. That's what makes me frustrated. If he did it within the rules, I would give him. I would lay it down and I would take my loss like a man, but I can't. Navy's still undefeated in my book.
All in all, even though you don't like the outcome of the game, the entire alumni day and that game was a phenomenal success. Congrats to Kalani and the athletic department and for what a wonderful day and event that they put on.
You know what's it makes me so somebody who's not LDS, right, and is a minority here.
You always call, like, I've used your phrase before. You say I'm a double minority,
right?
Because you're not of the predominant faith,
and I'm not of the predominant race. Right. There's not a lot of black people here.
So there you go.
So being a double minority,
but you are my nephew, and people don't understand that.
They don't. They do now if they listen to this. But what makes me feel good is that you had guys that played in the 80s and the 90s that. So we get access to practice, right, before the game. So we all go to practice and we do a couple other events. And then practice is the last event before we go to, get dressed and warm up for the game. So you have tons of guys walking on the practice field and you don't know who's who and people have kids. And so it's cool for guys that played in the 90s, more so the 90s, to come up to me and kind of be starstruck. They're like, oh my gosh, you're my favorite. And all the corners came to me, right? And they're like, yeah, we played in 93, 96. And it just makes you feel like you really are part of something, much bigger than yourself. And so not being being a double minority, I was really shocked because I'm like, man, like that literally has nothing to do with anything. They just, they see the logo.
It doesn't, your family.
Right. Exactly.
You're really my family,
right.
But you're a part of the BYU football family too, and then your actual family of mine. So
absolutely.
as we've established. So let's do a couple of quick things here, and then we're going to have Holly join us on set. First of all, I want to remind people of who our upcoming guests are. Next week, John, by the way. How fun is that? We've been trying to get John on for months. John's going to come join the show. And then Mike Littlewood, former, but now an official that's a big-time college basketball official. He officiated Elite Eights and Final Fours. We're going to have Mike in the house. April 8th, we're working on a coach from BYU staff, a new coach. That's all I'll say. Right now, Kahil Aloy and Kiani Painter are going to join us. April 15th, we actually are hoping to get a big name from the offense and the defense.
Players.
Yeah, but we can't say yet because we haven't secured him. And then April 22nd, Matt Bushman's going to join us.
You should be gone on that day.
Why should I be gone?
So I can come in and host.
You can come in. You can come in.
I'll come in.
And then I want to remind people of one of our new title sponsors, Defense Drinks, that you see here. And I kind of like to keep myself going during the show. I mix up some of I'm not drinking the pre because I'd be bouncing off the walls. I have enough energy as it is.
I got scared for a second.
I'm drinking the one that has the collagen and stuff in it because I'm old and I need to have my joints. But they make, and I'm drinking that right now. They also make a pre-workout that's caffeine free. Nice. You get energy and performance boost without disturbing your sleep. So that's probably something I should have. Or you don't have the caffeine jitters or the caffeine crash. They use clean ingredients. It means you can safely, take it. And NCAA athletes, because it doesn't have stimulant and it can take it. So It's called Defense Drinks. You can save 10% on your order at defensedrinks.com using the promo code WiseGuys. So just YSGUYS. And there's the promo. Save 10% at Defense Drinks. And by the way, tastes pretty good, actually. So I tell the guys I will not promote anything on the show if I actually don't like it. So there you go. If I don't like it, you got no shot. So
no, this is good. So you know I have gut issues.
Right,
I had health problems in the past. So I was just looking at the ingredients. I could.
You could do this.
I could. You could do this. I approve.
Yeah, it's pretty clean stuff. And my wife Brenda, who's also in the house, she's in the green room with Holly.
Hey, Auntie B.
So, she's allowed to come anytime she wants. By the way, she's got a free pass, and she knows where the secret hideout is. So, and when she heard Holly was on the show, she's like, "I'm coming up." So, and she's dear friends with Holly. Holly's taught her tennis. So why don't we bring Holly in the house, and I'll give a little introduction. Holly, as you're coming in, you'll join us. I'll have you sit right next to Bilo there. Headset, the cord goes on the left, and let's get your mic up close. Our next guest picked up a tennis racket for the first time when she was just 8 years old. It wasn't long before her father, Dan Parkinson, recognized her natural talent for the sport. This began a lifelong journey in tennis that took her around the world as a professional athlete, where she achieved a ranking of number 83 in the Worldwide Women's Tennis Association Top 100 in the year 2000. Today, you can find her anxiously engaged in developing the next generation of tennis stars. It's our pleasure to welcome for the first time to the Wise Guys, BYU's head women's tennis coach, Holly Hassler. Coach, welcome to the Wise Guys. This has been a long time coming.
Yes.
I've been wanting to get you on. We're so grateful you take the time to come join us. And you're in season right now.
Yeah, we are. We are.
So you have matches coming up this week, in fact.
Yep. This is a huge weekend for us. We have Baylor at home as well as TCU. Both really strong teams. They're going to be tough
Baylor's
matches.
Thursday, right? Mm-hmm. And then TCU
Thursday, 1 o'clock. We've got TCU Saturday at 2 o'clock.
So I know a couple that's planning to come Saturday and spend the afternoon with you, and they're named the Fowlers. So.
I heard you guys were going to have an early date night, huh?
Yep, we're going to come. We're going to have lunch, and we're going to come over, and we're going to join you. Brenda took me to a couple matches this last year, and we loved it. Absolutely loved it. I wanted to make sure people, and we're going to talk a little bit more about you and your team, but Brian and I were talking about it earlier. Brian's like, holy cow, I didn't know Holly played at the level that she played at, right?
Yeah. I mean, I feel bad, but I mean, that's like what maybe having Steve Young, maybe if you want to compare it, right? Having Steve Young come in and being a coach and having all his accolades and what he's done at the professional level, and then people just not know it. Yeah, that's kind of how I've felt about it, when it comes to, and then actually, when I was doing the research, I didn't know that your husband is Blair. So
he just texted me as I was sitting in the green room, and he said, "Wait, who are you on the show with today?"
And he knew Bilo was here.
And he said, B and I used to work together at Proof Point.
So I was telling Uncle B that, and I feel even worse because, I just got done playing in Canada and got done playing arena football. So that was my first professional career job, right? Working a cubicle job. And I knew he was a huge football fan. We always talked about the games, and he told me he had kids, and I was like, "Oh, are you gonna put him in sports?" He's like, "Oh no, my wife's gonna take care of him."
My wife's in charge of it.
Yeah, they're gonna do tennis, and I'm giving him a hard time. I'm like, "Tennis? What? Let him play football." And he's like, "No, my wife's really good," and I'm like, what do you mean really good? And he's like world class good. And so me, I'm like, whatever. It's just another fan.
Brian told me. Everybody tells, my kid's really good at this.
Yeah.
So he thought, my wife's a really good tennis player. No, dude, she played on the World Tennis.
Yeah.
She's WTA.
I didn't believe him. Every time we talked about it, he's like, dude, you just got to go see me. You should see my wife. You should see what she's done. And I was like, I don't want to watch tennis, And so he would always give me a hard time. He's like, you should put your boys in tennis. You should put them in tennis. And I never made that connection until tonight.
Yep. So
and at that time, I may not have been the head coach yet.
Right.
So I may have just kind of been teaching my kids and doing lessons, and so.
Yeah. Well, let's start. I want one question, just a general question about this team, and then I want to get into your history as a player, and how it led you to coaching, and then we'll cover the team a little bit at the end. So let's start with this. You're in the middle of the season. We already we have a Baylor game coming up on our match on Thursday and one on Saturday against TCU. First season competing in the Big 12. And here you are, you sit at 12-4, you're 4-3 in conference play right now. What's your impressions this first year in the Big 12? How's this been so far?
Honestly, it's been amazing. It's a completely different mindset than the West Coast Conference. I feel like the coaches are very intense, and it's just more of a championship mindset, which is what I love because I'm really competitive. But I love that every match we know is going to be super tough and super competitive. We just didn't get that in the WCC, and it just provides so much more opportunity for the women on our team to get better and to just have to play tougher more consistently, which honestly, it's been really good for us. So I feel like this is the strongest my team has ever been, but also they've just raised their level to the level of their opponents. And so for us, it's just, we usually, 2 weeks ago, we got to play the number 1 team in the country on our home courts. That would never happen if we weren't in the Big 12 conference. The majority of the teams are all ranked in the top 50. And usually these teams don't want to come play in Provo, in the altitude, indoors. And so it's been hard to set up a really tough schedule since I've been the coach. And so this is just providing us with a really easy schedule of really tough competition, which is awesome.
See, I want to say something that she just mentioned, that, people always say, oh, sometimes teams rise to the level of competition, sometimes they don't. And I feel like a lot of people try to play that down. And they go, no, it was just an off. But you just kind of confirmed that, right? Indirectly. And my question is, so okay. When we played Wyoming, I went to class, I did homework, because I was like, it's Wyoming. I was, but then we played Oklahoma. I didn't go to class. I didn't do homework. I was, I didn't talk to none of my girlfriends. I was just laser focused.
Plural?
Yeah.
Okay, girlfriends. I just want to make sure.
Girlfriends. I told, sent the group text, and I was like, hey, I'm not going to be available for the next week. No, it wasn't a group text. It was individual. But with that being said, how do you coach the other way around? Like when you guys are playing competition that isn't as high, how do you get your girls to stay consistent?
These days there are no easy matches. And I think the girls probably roll their eyes sometimes when we meet before, because they know we don't take a single match lightly. And, it used to kind of be that some of the in-state schools were kind of our warm-up matches or easier matches. But my first year as head coach, I found us at 3-3 against Weber State, my first match of the season. And I was really nervous. And it kind of made me realize these days, just every team is so tough. And anyone can beat anyone on any given day in tennis. And that's what's been really fun for us to see, is a lot of the season up until now, where we're the highest rank we've been since 2007, we've kind of been the underdog. And we're not the underdog anymore. And I think we've really surprised and shocked a lot of these coaches in the Big 12. They're like, whoa, BYU.
They're pretty
tennis.
good. Yeah.
This is a tough team. And so we just... And it's tough because we have a deep lineup and a lot of players, and only 6 get to play. And at times I want to be able to give everybody the opportunity to play, but then I don't want to take any matches too lightly. Right. And I want my girls to be prepared week after week. And so that does make it kind of tough, but we don't consider any matches to be easy.
Yeah, that's a great mentality. We'll come back and cover the team just a little bit more with some more specifics. I want to talk a little bit about your journey in tennis and how you made your way to BYU. So you come from an athletic family. Parkinson family's an athletic family.
Yes.
You got a brother that was a collegiate golfer. You have a sister that was an All-American gymnast. But it wasn't a tennis family, right? The Parkinson family wasn't a tennis family. Yet here you are at 8 years old, and you find tennis. How did you discover that this was going to be your thing, and how did this become your lifelong path when you weren't a tennis family? It feels like most tennis families produce tennis players, and you weren't.
Yeah. My dad, he golfed at BYU as well, and then joined the Army. And he was really big on, you find one sport and that's what you go with. And it's just, you give everything you've got into that one sport. And initially when I was younger, around the age of 7 to 8, we were experimenting with a little bit of soccer and gymnastics and tennis. And my dad would just take me out to the local courts, the parks, and we lived in Hawaii at the time. And he just right away felt like tennis is going to be her sport. And I just had really good hand-eye coordination, and my footwork was always just kind of what I was known for. It was just very natural. Everyone just, from day one, called me a bunny on the court, just hopping around all over the place.
Known for really quick feet, right?
That's right, really quick feet. And I just loved it from day one, and just kind of just stuck with it every day.
So let's fast forward a little bit. Now your family moved to New Jersey, and New Jersey's not a warm weather tennis place, but this is your passion now, right? So you actually moved to Tampa, Florida, to pursue your dream. Your family's still in Jersey, and you moved down to Tampa. Talk about that and how that time on your own as just a young teenager made you who you are, and how that developed your game and took you where you wanted to be.
Yes. So my family was in New Jersey. I was the second oldest of 7 kids, and it was really hard in New Jersey as I started getting better to get the indoor court time and receive the level of play that I felt I needed. I started out going to Florida for the first time when my dad was called to the Persian Gulf War.
Wow.
And we knew that he was going to be abroad for at least 6 months. And he was kind of in charge of my tennis. And so we just felt like I needed to find something that could keep me consistent day in and day out. And so first I actually ended up going to the Nick Bollettieri Tennis Academy down in Florida. Lived with some friends down there that kind of took care of me. And I just got to play tennis every day and just try to pursue my dreams. I mean, I think from the time I was 12 years old, I knew I wanted to be a professional tennis player. And there was nothing that was going to stop me from reaching that goal. And so I went down, and then I kind of came home for a little bit, and then decided that I loved it so much, I wanted to live there full time. And so in 7th grade was when I moved down, and I stayed there at academies for 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th grades.
Wow.
And I mean,
She's living on her own. Yes.
Yeah, you were grown, like you grew up fast.
It was. I mean, I really learned how to be independent, and but there was a kind of a group of girls at my academy that were all the best players in the country. And so for us to be living together and training together day in and day out, it was just such a great environment. And Florida just has so many tournaments that I could play tournaments almost every other weekend. And I basically went home once a month, and one of my parents or both came down once a month. And at that time, we didn't even have cell phones. So I've got stacks and stacks of letters that we wrote back and forth to my siblings and my parents. And
it was like being on a mission in the old days, only it was a little longer than the normal mission, right?
It was definitely like that. And it's crazy because a few of my kids have played tennis, and when I think of sending them away for tennis, I've just felt like, no, I would never do that with my kids. and so looking back, I just can't believe that I actually did do it. But I loved it. We had a house parent that was kind of like my second mom away from home that took care of us. And the coaches were just awesome. And I got consistent training every day. I went to school in the morning from 7 to 9 a.m., played tennis and worked out from 9 to 4, and was back in school from 4 to 7. And then dinner, bed, and just kind of that repeated schedule.
Wash, rinse, repeat, right?
Day in and day out.
Do you treat your kids like that at home? Like this, like the same structure?
And she, by the way, she has some great tennis players in her house.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I follow Blair and I see.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, they've got some players
I see,
coming up.
Did your daughter win something big recently?
So my daughter that is a junior, she kind of got into track during COVID.
That's right, yeah.
And now her goal is to run in college.
Okay.
And she's just been doing really well. She's been really successful, and she just works super hard. Part of me wishes I would have gotten her into tennis because she's probably my most dedicated, focused go-getter of all my kids. But we started her in dance and acting and singing. And so it wasn't till COVID that she came to me and said, Mom, I want to be an athlete. Do you think I could get good enough to play on the BYU tennis team by the time I graduate? And I said, no.
You're brutally honest.
That's good.
But
though.
did you have the same philosophy as your dad though? Like, hey, let's find something you love and let's chase it. Was that the way you went?
I have definitely been the same way with my kids. And I'm a little bit of a commander for sure. My husband, his family was completely different. Their philosophy was, let's do a little bit of everything. And so he doesn't understand why, he never understood why we had to practice 6 days a week for this many hours and no days off. And it's definitely been an adjustment for him, but honestly, he's the best tennis dad there is now. I mean, I can send my kids to tournaments, and he's the assistant coach of the American Fork High School boys tennis team right now.
That's awesome.
And he can't play tennis at all, but he's kind of learned it enough to be able to coach. And
Is your son's committed to BYU, right?
He is.
He's out on a mission now.
he is. He's on a mission.
But he'll come back and be really. He has the potential to be really good, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's actually in Las Vegas on his mission right now. He's about 8 months in. And he was the number 1 ranked 18-under player in the country. So
Maybe that's what
she
it
knows.
was.
She knows a little bit about
Yeah.
this. So now let's go back. Let's go back to high school with you now, because your family moved to Texas, so they finally moved to a warm weather place, right? I want to make sure I've got this right. And then you could go back and play in high school. Go back to Texas because now you're in a warm weather state, a state that has a little higher level tennis, and you meet up with a renowned tennis coach. Is it Butch Waltz? Is that
yes.
Who saw your potential, and he kind of helped you move your tennis to the next level as a personal coach. What did that experience do for you as a tennis player? And is there anything you took from what you learned from him that you use in your coaching today?
Definitely. My dad did a lot of research when he got out of the Army and was deciding where they were going to settle my family. And it needed to be a place for golf, tennis, and gymnastics. And so Houston is where we landed. And this coach, Butch Waltz, he was known throughout the country just as a world-class tennis coach. And initially when my dad reached out to him, he just said, I'm full. I've got a wait list. There's no way I have time. And he said he'd be willing to just take a look at me for an hour as we were kind of looking at houses and exploring where to go. And after the lesson, he just said, I'll make time.
I'm free.
And he just felt like he saw the talent that was there. And honestly, he was one of the best coaches I've ever learned from. And the thing that I love the most about him is he just believed in me, and he pushed me, and he loved me, but he also kind of used a little bit of the tough love with his teaching, which I felt like I really needed. I liked really being pushed, and I wanted a coach that told me exactly how it was, and not just that I was great. And it just gave me things to work on every single day and goals to work for. And I can remember there were times at lessons when he'd say, he'd get frustrated with my attitude or the way I was acting or playing, and he'd say, let's go get the golf cart. And he'd drive, and I'd have to keep up with running on foot down Northgate Drive, down and back. But it really just taught me how to work hard. And his big thing was topspin, heavy topspin. And it was a big adjustment for me. I had to take about 6 to 8 months off of tournaments. because I kind of came in hitting a little flatter, and he taught me how to hit the ball heavy with tons of spin. And I mean, to this day, I'm so grateful, because I feel like, and if the girls on my team are watching this, they're probably like, I hate that coach, because we've been practicing with ropes up every day for the last 2 weeks, so the girls can practice hitting their heavy topspin ball, just for power and depth. And
So when you have the ropes up, do they have to hit it over the top of the rope and bring it down with topspin? Is that the idea?
it's kind of like you have 2 nets instead of 1. And that heavy ball just provides depth.
Yeah.
And when you're hitting deep, then it allows opportunities to move forward, to step up. And one thing that's a little tricky for us with being in the Big 12 is we play a lot of matches at sea level. And when we go to sea level, we hit short, because it's so different. Here in the altitude, the ball just carries much faster.
Yeah.
And so we've just kind of noticed that we really need to be working day in and day out on our depth, so that it's perfected when we go to sea level, even better than when we play here.
That's awesome stuff. We're visiting with BYU women's tennis coach Holly Hassler here on the Wise Guys. So streaming live on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and of course, ysguys.com. They're our launching point for everything all over the world. Panama's in the house tonight, Coach. We usually have Japan in the house. We have Colombia in the house. BYU Cougar Nation's all over the world. It's amazing to us every week when we come on and people check in from all over. And Dr. Ketch says, hey, what a great story, Holly. What a passion and dedication and independence. It's inspiring. I love that you said he believed in you, which I'm sure made you believe in yourself. Is that something you've taken into coaching that you maybe learned a little bit from Butch?
Absolutely. We've, I think one of the biggest things with the girls, the women on my team, is instilling belief in themselves. We believe so heavily in them. And, these days in sport, athletes, they just have a lot of doubt.
Yeah.
And from the sidelines, you can tell what they're feeling. And we have focused a lot on that this year with our team, is believing. And we're working with some new mental toughness coaches that have just been amazing for the girls. And we just work on I can statements every single day. And we have a girl on our team that a few weeks ago was in a super tough clinching deciding match against UCF, and my assistant said she just prayed. She's just said, what can I say to this player at this time? And the thing that popped into her head was nothing about strategy. It was just, I can. And that's all she said the rest of the match. And she pulled through and ended up winning it. And I just think so much with athletes these days, they just, with mental health and the pressure that they feel from themselves and from parents and from coaches, I just think that it's so important that we as coaches instill belief in our players every single day.
That's a really good story. Sometimes I wish I would have had that. But I think with Bronco, he was very selective of his message to individuals. So he would, tell me something and then tell another player a completely different thing. Do you find yourself doing that as well as is understanding, each player's personality type and how I could talk to this one and how I could talk to this one, or is it kind of a blanket across the stage?
Definitely very individual. I love that we have a small team because we really have the opportunity to get to know our women on a personal level. And we really do get to know them personally, what's happening in their lives with their families and kind of their history and their background. And, tennis is just such an individual sport. It's so technical, and every player just has such a different game style that I really feel like we're just talking to them individually. I try to text the girls regularly after matches, and sometimes just midweek, and every text is completely different, and it just caters towards what I know that individual athlete is going through at that particular point in time. Some days it was they had a great practice, and some days they had a really hard practice, and I could see that they were down, or they just weren't feeling it that day. And And so I definitely think it's super important for me to be a great coach is to know my players individually and to speak to them on a personal level.
That's good stuff. Coming out of high school, you were the number 1 ranked player in the country coming out. So you're getting recruited by everyone, including number 1 in the country, Florida, top program in the country at that time. You could have gone anywhere you wanted to go in the country. You chose BYU. Why did you do that?
You know, it was a tough decision. And the University of Florida, my whole life was my dream. In the summer, I always made sure I went to a week or 2 of the Florida Gator summer tennis camps. I loved the coach there. And kind of just in the back of my mind, all through junior tennis, it was, I'm going to play tennis at Florida. They're the best team in the country. They have the best facilities. They win national championships at that time every year. And I just felt like that's where I'm going to land. And then my senior year or junior year, when it kind of came time to start taking visits, you know, I remember very clearly when I went to the University of Florida, I just didn't have a great feeling. It was just kind of a pit in my stomach. And I loved, you know, everything that they were telling me about the tennis program in particular. But I visited the Institute building because I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I just felt like I wanted to be somewhere where if I couldn't play tennis, I still felt like I would be really happy and enjoying myself. And I knew that Florida could provide that tennis-wise. But I'd had a lot of injuries throughout my junior career, and I just thought, man, what if I had a season-ending or career-ending injury where I wasn't going to be able to play tennis? And so that was a really big factor for me. And I loved when I came on my visit to BYU. My older sister was a student at BYU at the time, and so I got to kind of pal around with her, and it was just amazing to be in the environment at BYU. And I just felt like, wow, I just feel like I'll be so happy off the court in this environment, surrounded by so many members, that I'll probably play better tennis being on the court, less stressful. And the other thing is that I knew at BYU that I could play in the very top of the lineup. I knew I would come in and be probably the strongest player on the team. And I thought, you know, I want to turn pro. And I'm probably only going to stay at college for 1 or 2 years. And I realized at Florida, they're so strong. Even though I'm the top recruit in the country, I'm probably going to play 5 or 6 my freshman year. And won't get to play NCAAs, won't get to play in all the top tournaments or against all the best players. And that's really a strong factor that led me to BYU, is I felt like I can play every number 1 player on every other team playing at BYU. And that's the best experience that I felt like I would need to prepare myself to go out and play professionally.
And you knew, and she knew I might only be here 1 or 2 years. And in your first year, we were the WAC Freshman of the Year. You're an ITA All-American. Your success allowed you to play in a couple of professional tournaments. You had some success early and won. And after your first year, you turned pro.
I did. You know, my original plan was to stay in school for 2 years. And back then, most of the top players, it was either pro or college. Now, I feel like college tennis is a pathway for professional tennis now. And you look at these teams.
That's a good thing, right?
It's great. I mean, the top 2 to 3 players on most of these teams in the Big 12, they all have WTA rankings.
Oh, wow.
Now. And now, you know, BYU, we can pay for our players to play in pro tournaments throughout the school year, which is crazy. You know, when I was playing pro tournaments when I was at BYU, I was just skipping out of school and paying my own way.
Oh, wow.
And I was very fortunate. After my freshman year, I had a very successful year. And I was actually put on the USTA touring pro team. And it was just kind of a summer collegiate team that provided the top Americans in college tennis to play a series of pro tournaments throughout the summer. And they give you kind of a travel grant, they give you a coach, and it was an amazing opportunity for me. And I just thought, you know, this would be a good way to get my foot in the door And then I'll return to BYU and play one more year and then hit the Pro Tour the next year. But when I went out and played these tournaments, I ended up getting on this amazing run where I was in the qualies of the first 3 10,000s, and I qualied and won the first 3 tournaments. I had won 30 matches in a row.
Oh, wow.
And the tournament would have to wait for me to come because usually a qualifier doesn't make it to the finals. And so I'd have to wait and start like 2 days later than all the other qualifiers because I didn't have a ranking at the time. And, you know, I really just kind of got in a zone, and that summer I probably played some of the best tennis I'd ever played in my whole life. And by the end of the summer, I had received a wild card into the US Open qualifying. And I had to make a decision if I wanted to sign in as a professional or sign in as an amateur. And those series of tournaments that I'd played, my ranking at the end of the summer had climbed from nothing to 300 in the world.
Right.
And so, you know, and the way it works on the WTA Tour is your points fall off after a year. And so I thought, man, if I don't take this opportunity in a year when I start playing these summer tournaments again, my ranking's going to be gone because I'll be in school and all those tournaments, those points are going to fall off. And so I just decided to go for it. And I checked the box, professional. I called my college coach. All my stuff was still, you know, out here at BYU, and I felt bad because I did let the team down. He was definitely planning on me returning, but it was just a great opportunity that I didn't feel like I could turn down, and then I just kind of went from there. So full speed ahead.
Yeah, I guess so. And you were playing at a time in the WTA when there were some big name stars. Hey, there were some big name stars in men's tennis at that time too. So you're out on the tour playing with some huge names that people remember. Who's the best player you ever faced in singles?
I played against Venus Williams.
That's pretty good.
I have beaten Maria Sharapova.
Oh my goodness.
I played against Anna Kournikova on center court in the Arthur Ashe Stadium at the U.S. Open.
Oh my goodness.
The night match.
I feel even worse now. Not knowing.
That's great. So who's the best? Was Venus the best that you ever played, or?
I'd probably say Venus was the best. At the time when I played her, she was, I think she was ranked about 13 in singles. Anna Kournikova was top 10 when I played her, but probably not as many people would maybe know who she was. Maria Sharapova, I played in her, she was 14 years old.
Oh, wow.
It was her very first pro tournament she received a wild card into. And I'd been on the tour for a couple of years. It was the Italian Open. And she just tried to rip a winner on every single ball. And I just was pretty seasoned at that time, and so I just made her play and kept it deep, and had no idea that she would then go on.
She'd be the number one in the world for a long time.
Number one in the world, but I still kind of use it as my claim to fame. You know, I beat Maria Sharapova.
That's awesome. When you played Venus, did you have any idea that she was going to have the greatness that she had?
Yeah, she was already at the top when I played her. I actually played against her in World Team Tennis, and so it was kind of more of a fun type team event where you play for a city and then you travel around. At that time, Andy Roddick was on my team, and he and I played mixed doubles together throughout that season. Nice. So that was really fun. But I kind of got my butt whooped against Venus. She was pretty intense and just really kind of overpowered me.
I was going to say, she's so powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, but I did ace her twice, which my dad gave me $100 for every ace.
Nice.
So I got $200 out of that.
Nice.
But overall, I mean, it was just a great experience. So
what an amazing. This is why I was so excited to have you on, because I knew all about this, and I don't think people out in Cougar Nation have any idea of your history in tennis and what a rich history that is, and what you bring to this coaching and those experiences that you can share with these great young women that you coach. So you were out on WTA for 5 years, and then had maybe some thoughts about changing the trajectory of what you were going to do. I think you had a wrist injury at the time that maybe aided in that. You met Blair at that time, right? So tell us about that change from being out on tour, living your dream, to to what brought you back to BYU and being an assistant coach and now the head coach? What was that turn of events?
You know, life on the tour it's tough. It's really tough. And, you know, the Grand Slams are so glamorous, but the behind the scenes of all the tournaments that you have to play leading up to qualifying for the Grand Slams, I mean, it's a grind. And I was pretty much living out of a suitcase for about 35 to 40 weeks a year for those 5 years. And, you know, the first 3 years I was on like the USTA professional team. And so I kind of had a team of girls that I was traveling with, and they provided a coach, and it was just a really nice support system with built-in practice partners. But the next 2 to 3 years, I was on my own. And it can just be a pretty lonely lifestyle, you know, just living out of a suitcase, traveling from week to week. And for me, I always tried to stay with LDS families, which was really fun. But, you know, then you just start having injuries. And I had a wrist injury that was lingering for a wrist and then kind of an arm injury that were both lingering for almost 18 months. And just frustrating, just couldn't quite feel at 100%. And as I'd come back and forth to Utah, which my family now lived in Utah, I was visiting my sisters that were in college, and I think I just kind of got burnt out a little bit, and I just kind of felt like, I want to be in a ward. I want to have a calling. I want to get married. My little sister was married already. And I just thought, I'm never going to meet anyone out on the tour.
Well, you met Andy Roddick. What was wrong with him?
Yeah, he wasn't exactly
what you were looking for.
My type. Really, really nice guy.
I was going to ask you if you know, when you said it gets really lonely, if you had Blair with you at the time, would that have made things easier, or do you think it would have been harder because you still have your, you know, your athletic duties, so to speak, and then you have to have your wife duties as well. So how do you think that would have played out?
I definitely think it probably would have been more fun. And we did entertain that thought after we met and we decided we were going to get married. But, you know, he was a student at BYU, and I, you know, I wanted to settle down and have a family and have kids. And you know, when I was making the decision, it was hard because I thought, well, what am I going to do? I don't have a degree. I definitely don't want to go back to school. I haven't studied for 5 years. And I just felt like, what are my options? And, you know, in coming back to Utah, I reached out to Craig Manning, who at the time was the head coach at BYU. And he was my assistant when I played at BYU, and he had now moved into the head coaching position. And I reached out to him and just said, hey, you know, I'm going to be home for a little bit. And I still had some professional things that I had signed up for, but he said, why don't you come out and just help coach a little bit, see how you like it. And so I ended up jumping on board as the volunteer assistant for that year and just helping out whenever I could. I traveled, I attended every practice, and it was really fun because I was a little bit older than the girls, but not much.
Right, yeah. And
I was still able to get to play points and hit and exercise, but also just kind of start to get a feel for coaching. And I learned a lot from Craig, and it just so happened that the very next year, his assistant at the time was Andy Norda. He had some family things going on, and so he kind of slipped out of the position, and it provided an opportunity for me to just move right in there. And I just loved it. I loved coaching, and I felt like, wow, this is the next best thing to playing professionally. Yeah. I get a little bit of travel, a little bit of office work, a little bit of tennis. And yeah, ended up being the assistant with Craig for about 6.5 to 7 years.
I would say this is probably like what we do. This is probably the third best thing.
Yeah, third best thing is you can just talk about it because there's no responsibility whatsoever. You can say whatever you want. You can be involved in it, and you don't have any responsibilities.
This is what my son wants to get into after tennis.
See, he's the smartest in the family. So
that's good.
So now, obviously, the head coach. What do you love most about your job?
I would say for sure it's just a really fulfilling job. It's the women on the team are they're at such crucial stages in their lives where they're just making
absolutely.
so many big decisions, and to be able to be an impact for good in their lives, just to help them to be not just better tennis players, but better people. It's just really fulfilling. And I mean, not to mention that I love tennis and I love competing. And so sometimes just being on the sideline, I do wish that I could just jump into my student athlete's body and, do things for them. But it's just really fun to be able to help these women to problem solve and to,
Like if they want to get married or not.
well, I'm talking more on the court.
Okay.
There's a lot of adversity, and it comes off the court too. But it's really fun just being able to be an influence in their lives and help them to problem solve, and just figure out ways that they can be successful and be happy, not just on the court but off the court as well.
We have a couple of real fun things in the chat. So Linda Murray, who's always in on the chat, she says, I'm a big fan of our team and what Holly and Gabby are doing with the team. It's exciting to have the team ranked and playing so well this year. And I'm going to read this other one, and I'm going to come back. She has a question at the end of this, which I think is a great question. The next one is from a guy that I think you know. He says, Holly Hassler's really well-spoken. What a player. I've heard she can still beat all of her players. I must admit, I'm not very objected since I'm her dad, from Dan Parkinson.
Awesome, Dad. Dad is watching. We're so happy that he's in the house with us tonight.
Back to the question. The question from Linda Murray is, how do you find these international players like Bobo? Because you have a real international flavor on this team. So what's your recruiting philosophy, and how have you convinced so many international players to come join you?
That's an interesting question. Recruiting at BYU for tennis is tough. It's tough. We've had 3 years now where we haven't had one LDS player that has been strong enough to come in and play on our team. And so we do have to kind of look outside the box. And the reason that, if you look at the top teams in the country, tennis is just such an international sport. And the field of players, as far as Americans go, is not very big. And where we, coming in, I've been trying to rebuild the program, where coming in, not being one of the top ranked schools in the country, it's been very hard to bring in non-LDS top players that could help to turn the program around and take us back to national prominence, where
Because
we need
of the
to
honor
be.
code?
There's a lot of different aspects. I'd say the altitude. Points are shorter here. They're just quicker and shorter, and so some players feel that training at sea level is more beneficial. And also, you've got the religion classes. You've got the honor code. Playing indoors. We've got 4 indoor courts, and a lot of the top players in the United States have grown up playing in California, Texas, Florida, those southern states where they're playing outdoors year round, and so that's just more of what they're looking for, I would say. And so to compete with the best schools in the country, I've felt like I've had to go internationally, and I've really tried to keep a really good blend of half international and half Americans on my team. And it actually just makes it really fun with the culture too, because we just blending all the different cultures. I just feel like we just get such a wide variety of personalities that it just makes it really fun.
Yeah.
And I, coming in to BYU, I decided to start reaching out to some of my international contacts. And it just so happened that one of my main coaches from my academy in Florida was now running a really prominent tennis academy in China.
Oh, wow.
And so my first recruiting trip that I went on was to visit his academy.
Nice.
And that's where I've brought in some of the Asian players that are on our team now. And I have found too that a lot of the international students, they're not being pulled by as many coaches and schools. And so when I tell them about the opportunity at BYU, they're so excited and so grateful for an opportunity. And most of them are actually really excited about the honor code.
Yeah.
I've kind of learned which countries and areas are the best for me to go, because I want to make sure that these women are gonna be happy and fit in with the culture and the environment at BYU, and so international has just worked well for us.
If I'm hearing you right, you're saying you've used the honor code as an advantage with some of these international students, which I think is great.
I would say most, countries outside of the U.S., their kids or the culture and their families are taught honor code values, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like with my dad. My dad's from Belize, a third world country, and like he's not religious, not Christian, never went to church, but the way that he, raised me is just like he did,
Honor code. There was an honor code in your family.
Exactly.
That's why they recruited Bilo.
And most, like my mom was strict as a single mother, but she wasn't like my dad. And even growing up with friends and in high school and stuff, I'd go over to my best friend's house and I'm like, what, your mom let your girlfriend spend the night with you? In your room, you know what I mean?
That's not going to work at BYU,
right? Exactly. So I feel like you will have more of that opportunity just based on my experience and my family, my dad's side coming from Central America.
I like the idea that I know that talking to Kalani, he's talked about, hey, we're going to embrace the honor code. We're going to use it as an advantage because we're going to recruit the kids that it is an advantage to. It sounds like that's exactly what you're doing.
It is. And, it really just provides an environment for us to be as successful as we can possibly be. And that's what most of these student athletes are looking for. They want to focus on tennis and they want to focus on school and they want to have fun without that partying lifestyle. And so BYU does just really provide the full package for those really disciplined, competitive athletes that want to pursue their dreams, and we bring in a lot of players that are looking to turn pro after college, and it's the perfect environment to succeed in.
Yeah, give us some names of folks that for the folks that are tuned in tonight, who would be watching on the BYU women's tennis team? Some stars right now, some future stars. Like who should we be watching right now? We heard the name Bobo.
Yeah, so
and I loved watching her when we went.
Yeah, Bobo she's a fun player to watch. She is from China and had the same coach that I had growing up, which is kind of a really fun connection that we've had. And what's been really fun about Bobo is just her work ethic. She just works so hard. She is always putting in extra time and energy into her tennis. Every week we watch video together. Every week we do private lessons. And in the summer when she plays tournaments, she connects and checks in on a regular basis, tells me about her matches so I can kind of coach her from a distance. And she's really just one of those all-in players that you just kind of dream about recruiting and bringing in, and she just plays with so much heart and focus. And so she's really fun to watch. And she's little, and she'll play against these big girls. And she just, she outsmarts them and just has a lot of tools to work with that can kind of mess with her opponents a little bit. And so she's been a great addition to the team. We're going to miss her when she goes. And she's got a pro ranking right now. She started playing pro tournaments last summer and came into school starting her junior year this year about ranked around 800. During the school year, she won her first pro doubles title nice. With one of her fellow teammates from her academy in China who's playing at USC.
Oh, wow.
And so they kind of paired together and won that. And so it's just been really fun to see her progress. She has improved tremendously since her freshman year. And she's just going to keep getting better. She is our only ranked singles player on the team right now. And I think a big goal for her this year is to make it into the NCAA tournament. It'd be really fun to get to take her.
That's great. That's good stuff. Yeah. So, well, we're closing in on time. We've already probably kept you longer than you were planning, but we're so glad that you would come share the story. We couldn't wait another week to to kind of get the word out to Cougar Nation about who we've got coaching this women's tennis team and your background and your history. And how we talked about this at the very, very beginning. Are you on schedule? Are you ahead of schedule? We talked about the record at this point and where you're at 12-4 and 4-3 in the league. Do you feel like you're right where you need to be? And what can we look forward to as the season plays out?
We've definitely done better than I think most coaches have expected. We came in the preseason rankings at number 9, and we beat UCF early on. They were 4, and then we beat Kansas State. I believe they were about 6 in the preseason rankings. And, we've had 2 tough losses back-to-back now with Kansas and Texas Tech. And, both matches could have gone either way. I mean, we were in both matches really competitively. And I think the great thing that we're really just trying to do is learn from every match that we play and just keep improving and getting better. Playing at home is a huge advantage for us. And so to get to play Baylor, on Thursday, who's ranked 30, that's going to be just a great opportunity for us. And the thing that I love about my team right now is the girls are all in. They're just hungry to compete. And our doubles has been a huge success this year. We just lost our very first doubles point in 16 matches, which is probably unheard of throughout the country. And it's really just the girls coming out and playing with a ton of energy early on, and just bringing that positive energy. It's just been really fun, and we just want to play the best teams and just see where we're at, And a lot of these teams I think are really surprised because in tennis you have these ratings, and our ratings are substantially lower than almost every team in the Big 12. And it's mostly because we haven't had the opportunity, even though the talent is there, we haven't had the opportunity to play this tough of a schedule in the past. And so it's been really fun just to surprise these teams, because I think the first thing you do is you go and you check the ratings. And they're like, wow, we're higher at every single position. Like, this should be a, we should win easily. Pretty steady match. Yeah. And then we just come out and we just battle and fight, and I've just been so proud of the women and how hard they're pushing. I mean, we push them hard in practice, and today was a really hard practice, and I feel like some of the girls are like, it's Monday, we had a match on Saturday, but I know their potential, and I just want to keep getting better, and we have to put in the work to do that. And in the future, I really am just trying not to count wins and losses. We have had a tremendous season, but I'm really just trying to focus with my team on the process and playing with a plan and having positive energy and focusing on the things that we can control. And then just kind of letting the winning take care of itself. And then it's just more fun that way.
Yeah.
So I love that. We had a big alumni thing this last weekend with the football program, and the night before the alumni thing, we had a 1984 national championship reunion where BYU TV is putting together like a 30 for 30 documentary, which was really, really cool and fun to be part of. Elder Vi Sikahema, who was part of that team, he said he had gone out to dinner with Lavelle and Patty before Lavelle Edwards passed away, and something you said reminded me of this. He said, what do you have, put behind all of the success that you had over the years? And they said, early on when we were coaching, we just decided we weren't going to be concerned with championships. We were going to be concerned with building champions. And if we built champions, championships would come. So they focused, and you said that, you're focusing on the individuals and making them the best people that they can be, and that that their potential is there, and that's why you're pushing them. Sounds like you're building champions, and champions will produce championships over time, right?
That's exactly right.
So I love that. Well, we do a thing with all new guests called 5 Questions. You saw us you were here when Dave has been on before, Coach Rose, so we had a little twist to it. But you just Brian, you want to take her through the 5 questions? Brian will take you through 5 questions.
And this is supposed to be rapid fire.
Yeah, you're just supposed to, whatever comes to the top of your head, you just answer.
Come to mind. That's how we'll know, the real you, if you say it fast. If you think and try to, then that means your answer's fake.
Okay.
Okay. So, favorite sports movie?
Remember the Titans.
It's a good one.
You know what? That's one. I think that's our top
Yep.
vote getter.
Yeah.
Of all time. So I like that.
That was
Remember the
mine.
Titans? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, number 2, favorite singer or band?
I'm not a music person, but I would have to say I love country. So pretty much all country, I'd say.
Okay.
Country. Like
Okay.
if you can be Brandon, Tim McGraw.
I like to just grab playlists from
Yeah.
all the ladies on my team, and that's the music I listen to.
There you go.
Nice. That's
Hey,
a
at
good
least
one.
you're not like Garrett. Eminem. Eminem. I love how Dave goes, some guy that swears all the time. Oh, Eminem. We're like, yeah, it's Eminem. So
Okay, number 3, favorite breakfast cereal?
O's.
Oh, do they have sugar on them?
Of course, yes.
Okay.
Wait,
good.
somebody
It's
brought us
honey.
O's.
Honey.
Yes.
More honey than sugar, but all good cereal has sugar.
I think that the last time that I filled in for you, a guest came on and brought us O's.
Oh, that's right. And they were really good.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, hey, Scott Warner coming in and saying, hey, the Natural, Rocky, Warrior, Hoosiers, then remember the Titans. Scott, no, you got this wrong.
Yeah,
O's. And Scott Warner says top 5 for him.
O's.
Scott Warner's the founder of Gig.
Yes.
And he's the one that made cereal famous on the show when he was on the show.
Nice.
So he's always chiming in on cereal.
Nice.
So I love it, but it's awesome. So
Okay, number 4, favorite tennis player?
I would definitely have to say Steffi Graf.
Steffi Graf.
She was my idol growing up. She was who I wanted to take after with my tennis game, with the big forehand and the feet. That's kind of how I centered my game, was around how she played.
Wait, didn't I hear she's playing pickleball now?
She's gotten into some pickleball as well as Andre Agassi.
Yeah, I heard that she and Andre are like playing pickleball all over the place. I'm like, I wouldn't want to face them in pickleball. So, yeah, I heard Steffi and Andre are playing that.
Okay, number 5, favorite BYU moment?
Favorite BYU moment?
This is always a tough one.
And it could be as a player or as a coach. It could be anything.
Yeah.
As a fan.
And it doesn't even have to
mean,
be sports.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say the top 2 that come to my mind, one was as a player. I had the opportunity my freshman year to play against the number 1 player in the country in Provo at BYU. And I beat her in a 3rd set tiebreaker. Oh. And I definitely felt I had a huge home court advantage. But it was a huge win for me against a player that I had battled with in the juniors all growing up. And she was a year older than me, so she was a sophomore. But at the time when I beat her, she was ranked number 1 NCAAs. So that was a huge moment for me. And last year, my team beat Utah for the first time in 14 years in tennis.
Weren't we there? Yes, we were there.
Yeah.
We were there.
And it wasn't a close match. It was like an annihilation.
Like a beat down.
And for me, I didn't care what happened the entire rest of the season. It just felt so good to get that win. And the way that the girls came out that night, just fighting and competing. And I remember several times during the match, I was just trying to hold back the smile, the tears. I was just so proud of my student athletes. And anytime in football we beat Utah and we storm the field, that's always a great moment. Really
Yes,
fun.
that's great. So, Holly, we're so grateful you spent time with us tonight. I hope everybody out there in Cougar Nation feels like they have a better knowledge of your background and they feel like they know you now, because not enough people know who you are out there, and I think they will now. What a great representative of BYU. Great as a player, great in the pros as a player, and now you bring it all back and bring it as a coach and coaching these great young women. So thanks for being with us. We hope you'll come back and visit us again sometime.
Absolutely, for sure. Thank you for having me.
Great to
Fun.
have you. Thanks, Holly.
Thanks, guys.
Tell Blair I said I'm sorry and hi.
Okay.
Sorry for not believing him.
I will do that.
So we'll let you head out. You can talk to
Thank
Brenda
you.
and Brian. Let's just finish. Let's just go right to On This Day. Okay. So we'll just finish up with On the Day, and I'll let you start that, and we'll do our inspirational quote of the week, and we'll be out of here.
So on this day, March 25th, 1882, first demonstration of pancake making held at a New York department store.
On this day, March 25th in 1934, the first Masters tournament at Augusta National. How about that? 1934.
1954, RCA manufactures the first color television set with 12.5 screen.
12.5-inch screen?
Yeah, for $1,000.
Okay. 1971, the Boston Patriots relocate to Foxborough, Massachusetts, and become the New England Patriots.
1972, UCLA basketball wins its 6th straight national championship. Wow.
Oh, I know. They were, you talk about a dynasty under John Wooden? Yes.
Oh, okay.
So 2002, The Bachelor debuts on ABC, and it's never stopped since.
Hey, nope.
So, and before we do birthdays, I want to make sure we cover the Cougar Board question of the week.
Okay.
Because we haven't had a chance to do that because our guests were here back to back. So here I've got the Cougar Board question of the week. If you're not familiar with Cougar Board, it's the largest online community of BYU fans. Thousands of posts daily. This question comes from Seth J. 250, one of their insider subscribers. And he asked this, and you got to help me with this one. We're going to do this together. Now that the season is over, how much did injuries affect the men's basketball team, especially the last few games of the season?
I think injuries always play a huge part in any team, especially towards the end of the season. Because it's as soon as like fall camp starts, like the training period starts, you're never 100% ever.
Right.
And so as the season wears on and you get to the most important part of the season, you're not only are you're depleted, but then you throw in injuries on that, and you're not able to really give 100%, right?
I look at Ollie Khalifa's ankle. I'm not sure that he was right.
No. And you know what I this is weird to say. What I did appreciate about the seasons or the injuries in the beginning of the season, kind of sprinkled here and there. Guys came in and got experience, right? Mm-hmm. And there were some times where guys came in, they stepped up, but most importantly, guys got to get experience and get quality experience, right?
Yeah.
And that's the only kind of benefit of injuries.
This was an interesting team this year. The basketball team had 2 full rounds of the flu, cold,
right,
that went through this team where players missed games. 2 full cycles of it during the season that lasted over 2 months long. They never made excuses. You didn't hear anybody say, hey, Ollie's ankle wasn't 100%.
Right.
Because everybody gets beat up, as you mentioned. But it's a pretty significant injury. He obviously wasn't himself. When Ollie's out against these really physical teams and he's spreading the floor and he's knocking down threes and he's distributing the ball, he's a difference maker. And I just don't feel like he was 100% in that game.
And look, responding to Seth J250, a good way, you don't even need us, right? This is how you can be your own expert. When you hear about an injury of a player, look at the stats of the game.
Mm-hmm.
When they are considered injured or have something nagging, versus when they're healthy, and you'll see the stats will answer your question.
Yeah, well, there's a big answer because he had a struggle in that last game. So thanks for the question, Cougar Board question of the week. We have a Cougar Board question of the week every week, and thanks to Seth J250 for providing it this week. March 25th birthdays, 1918, Howard Cosell, the great broadcaster.
1942, Aretha Franklin.
Yeah, respect, baby.
Yeah.
So 1947, Elton John. Some great singers were born on this day.
Right. 1966, Tom Glavine.
Tom Glavine.
I don't know who that is.
Well, I'm going to let you read the Wise Guys inspirational quote because you know who Howard Cosell was of Monday Night Football.
The ultimate victory in competition is derived from the inner satisfaction of knowing that you have done your best and that you have gotten the most out of what you had to give. There
you go. The ultimate victory.
I think that is,
if you can leave it all on the field and you lose, you're okay with that.
When I got my scholarship taken away from San Diego State, I was hurt and I was sad, but knowing that D1 was probably not going to be in my future and I had to go AA or D2, I was satisfied. I was like, you know what? I sacrificed. I worked hard. I wasn't going to parties. I wasn't doing anything, and I was okay with it. But then when BYU came around and I accomplished the goal, it was like, man, all of that hard work, that sacrifice, that dedication, knowing that I did everything that I could to go D1 was the best feeling, ever. And I think it made my time here obviously better, more sweeter. Everything was enhanced But I think I worked harder too because I knew what I had to do to get here. And, you know, it kind of reminds me of what Coach said earlier, finding international players that, you know, kind of sacrifice and have to go a different route. When they get here, they're like, okay, let's go. I'm ready to roll.
They're ready to go. So fun to have Holly on with us. We're very grateful to our guests tonight, Dave Rose and Garrett Rose. How fun was that to have them? They broke down the BYU basketball team and their new program, motivating folks all over. I love it. Today is a good day, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you have Dave and Garrett in the house, and then Holly Hassler, BYU's women's tennis coach, a phenomenal athlete in her own right during her days, a member of the WTA, a professional tennis player. What a fun story. And I'm grateful, Brian, that you come join me here, BYU TV football analyst, Brian Logan, my nephew. Grateful to have you in the house with me. Thanks, brother, for coming.
Anytime, Unc. Anytime.
He's Brian Logan. I'm Blaine Fowler. Thanks for joining us. The podcast will be up tomorrow, and we'll see you all next week.